If you want to learn, you have to first listen.
Welcome to episode 16 of Matt O'Donnell Wants to Know, a podcast to feed our curious minds. I'm Matt O'Donnell, and I want to know who you are. I want to know what you do. I want to know why we have Pac-Man and Mrs. Pac-Man, but there's only Mr. Coffee. I want to know what matters to you and why. I've spent the past 15 years as a professional bass player. That means I've covered a lot of miles and talked with a lot of people. I've found that the person deeply interested in a topic is often more interesting than the topic itself, and the bigger picture is found in the details. What a fantastic excuse to share conversations with people who I think are great. This time on the podcast, I am talking to background singer extraordinaire Kristen Rogers. Odds are, you've never heard her name, but there's a halfway decent chance, probably better than halfway, like 60% chance you've heard her voice somewhere. More on Kristen in a moment. First, let me say a variation on the thing that I say a lot, which is thank you for listening right now. Thank you for listening in the past. But let's get real. I'm here for world domination. And so I know that you know somebody that would like to hear this podcast that is into some sort of weird talk with a whole bunch of different people and figuring out that we're all kind of the same and we're all kind of weird. Send them a link. We're on Apple Podcasts, which populates everywhere. We're on Spotify. There's even a YouTube channel that has the full episodes on it. Grow, baby, grow. If you're hearing this as it drops, I am in Calgary, Alberta, Canada for a gig. My biggest reference point for my entire life of this place, which I have never been to before, actually, is the professional wrestler Bret the Hitman Hart and his family, who ran a whole dynasty here, and his father, Stu, ran Stampede Wrestling up here. And, that's really the thing that is dyed in the wool of my cellular material. And by cellular, I mean, body cells, not phone cells. That's my reference point. It's cool to be here. We're making music. We're having a good time. I'm talking to Kristen Rogers in a minute. I needed to go through and figure out among the luminaries that she has been on stage with who I should say, what I should say, what's the gist of the resume. And I was needing to get this done. And so I reached out to her after we had chatted and I said, hey, why don't you give me the list of what you want mentioned so that I don't have to whittle it down from a giant list into a smaller list, or else we'd be here for another half hour at the top of the show. And so she sent me this blurb, and I was just going to pull the list out, but if we're being honest, this little thing sounds a lot like her, and so I'm just going to read it off to you. Kristen sings a lot. She's more than the proverbial, quote, average bear, unquote. She's probably sung to you at dinner, on a drive, or as a little ant on a big old stage. If you don't notice her, she's happy. A true background singer knows how to melt into the sound like soft butter on fresh sourdough. Unless you ask her to belt high notes, then generally screw all that. Okay, but we all want the sizzle reel. Those names are Post Malone, Reba McEntire, Hozier, The Killers, Eric Church, Zach Bryan, Marcus King, The Revivalists, Anderson East, Jake Wesley Rogers, Lori McKenna, and more to come should she keep playing her cards right. I wanted to read the whole thing because the more to come should she keep playing her cards right sounds like if I had said that natively, then I'm a jerk. But she said it about herself, and so, less jerky, right? Not only is Kristen all those things, but we are kind of on these ends of a two-way street, her and I, where a few people that we trust implicitly, professionally and personally, think highly of the other one of us. And that's a really nice place to be. Kristen is an expert vocalist. She sounds wonderful. She's a great spirit, and you're just not going to hear anyone say anything bad about her. And that's really the kind of person that should be on this show talking to me. A lot of really interesting topics in the chat, including a lot of what it's like to be a human being out there playing music on the road. Whether you're a player, there's something in here for you about that. If you've never come close to the backstage of a gig, you're going to learn a lot about what it's like. And we're going to be ridiculous and have fun along the way. Just a quick note in there, we talk a lot about the documentary 20 Feet from Stardom, which is a documentary about background singers, profiles a lot of the iconic background singers of the past, talks about the concept of background singing, and a number of things. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it after you get through this discussion. It is free to watch on YouTube right now as of the release date of this podcast. I don't know about in the future, but that's probably where you should go look first. Highly recommend it. It is really the documentary along with Standing in the Shadows of Motown, which is about the studio band at Motown that launched sort of the modern music documentary. This chat is beautiful. It gets deep. So that's enough of me. Here I am talking to Kristen Rogers. I'm fueled by spite and
It's not spite.
and its associated arms of the octopus.
Well, like, let's be real too. Like, almost all musicians are neurodivergent. I stand by that theory.
Sure.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
That's not science. But I'm learning all the ways in which I am like severely neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And one of them is that like all the time you'll just be delivering something in a way that people are like, what? And you're like, Grace, let's all talk about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like someone's chewing loudly and I'm like, for the duration of your chewing, I fucking hate you.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not my fault and I don't mean to be mean, but it's like, if I can hear your wet mouth, you're dead to me.
Wet mouth.
But like that person could be like, oh my God, Kristen hates me. She gave me such bad vibes. And if they come to me later, I'll be like, I'm sorry, you were eating and I'm not going to lie. Like that grosses me out. It's not your fault. Like we would all be back on the same page. Like usually shit is not about you.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
That's
but
right.
when you spew energy, it's like, that girl, she's, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I really, if I hate you, you know.
Uh-huh.
You know, because like I've told you. And that's like one person, so it's fine.
Yeah, right. I've got like 5. Okay,
I probably have 5.
like a small like League of Evil of
You're right. I can actually think of at least 3 just off the top. So it's probably more like 6 or 7 knowing my Scorpio bullshit.
And those people are all like, they are not people that I would say something to about it. And they'd be like, oh, I thought like, I didn't mean that or whatever. No, it's
right. We're dealing with someone that does not care. Yeah. It's not always worth discussing. Be like, I know what this is. All right. Do we slate? What do we do?
No, we're doing it.
We're doing it?
Yeah, we're doing it.
Gosh.
We've been doing it.
Oh gosh. Scary.
Yeah. The soft entry.
All right. I like it. I like it though. It's natural. It's like we're actually just talking like actual people.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe we are.
I think we are.
It's getting meta.
We're real people sitting 6 feet away from each other. So
Maybe.
which is so interesting. On the last podcast I had, it was a Zoom one with an author who I really admire. And we talked for a minute about how when you do one of these over Zoom, you can feel when that like hour to 90 minutes is coming around.
Oh, yeah.
It is so much easier to like be out of it because you're separated. And the ones that get taped in here are always like, we go.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Well, and in general, just, I mean, didn't we all learn that? And I don't want to spend this talking about those times.
No,
but,
we're not.
Amen. But, you know, like there was so much to be learned. You know, I can even pivot it toward the career thing, you know, teaching on Zoom and trying to teach someone resonance vocally and connect like in this very deep space of like body work and trust with a person who I've never met.
Yeah.
While we're both staring at screens, like it's not impossible, but it is so much easier when I have someone in front of me and I'm just like, hi.
Yeah, I was just about to ask like what you thought your success rate was. Like,
in what way?
being able to connect, like, you're talking about these very tangible things over a medium that destroys tangibleness.
See, destroys again.
Yeah.
I feel that.
It seems like a thing that is just fundamentally unable to get to the point.
I think, like, ideally, let's say I've got a student that I've worked with in person, then we have to switch to Zoom for a while because they're touring or whatever.
Yeah.
That, because we have a lot of established communication, I worry about less.
Mhm.
I will say, like, there are some students that I felt hit a wall during that time, and it was always hard to figure out why. Because I will, like, I'll come at you from this way around the block. Okay, that doesn't make sense to you. What about this? What about this? Because we're dealing with abstracts. Like, I can't,
Of course,
take your hand and move it on the frets if you're a stringed something player. Sure. You know, I have to be like, hey, like, try saying In fact, try saying Feel it. No, say Feel the back of your throat drop.
Uh-huh.
That's like your whole cage of vocal muscles dropping and making space to, like, find low resonance.
Uh-huh.
You know, we're in the room together, but I didn't need to be in the room with you to show you that. Like, there's some things that physiologically we can do, but it's definitely when it comes to, like, really feeling and experiencing resonance, and, like, I don't know, I'll add that there's, like, a very big energetic flow piece of singing.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I'm new agey. I don't know what I am or what I feel in that stuff, but, like, there is something
ageless.
Ageless. In the spiritual sense, yes. But yeah, like, whenever I have a client in front of me, like, I can feel what they're feeling in my body. And so, like, there is something that really benefits from being in the room, because they can, I think we can share that empathy and compassion a little more. I can go, like, I did that with my voice yesterday. Like, who cares that you cracked?
Yeah.
We're, like, over Zoom, you're, like, staring at a computer, you realize it's being recorded, like that awful crack. And it's, I think even just in your mind, it's a very different experience, which is hard.
When you do Zoom lessons that way, do you turn off the auto sound smoothing stuff?
Yes. I try to get my students to turn it off.
Just was thinking in real time, like, it must have been, or that must be troublesome with lessoning.
Yes. And for my students that are more technologically challenged, I will say the funny thing, like, if they can't figure out how to turn it off, which happens sometimes, like, I'll be watching them and it's like the louder, higher note gets compressed. So it'll be like, ooh, ooh. It's like, like, whatever. I'm like, I think it's good. It's probably good.
Yeah.
I can see your face musculature. You look relaxed. Killing it, kid.
It didn't seem like anything tragic happened.
Nailed it. I'm sure of it.
That's enough.
Hey, encouragement is important and it goes a long way. And I don't ever deliver it falsely. But, you know, like, sometimes you just look at someone, you're like, their body looks relaxed. They're probably doing it right. Encouragement
is the great omission of my life.
Encouragement is a great omission of so many of our lives.
I know.
In music, none of us got good by loving ourselves.
No. I've tried so hard to, like, fix that. Like, I've been so criticized in, like, spaces where, you know, I am one of the trusted people, which happens all the time, and I don't always love it. It is a cross to be bared. But
do you mean, like, if you've been, like, on a gig for a long time or playing with a certain, like, then people, like, are more comfortable and they're more willing to offer that criticism?
No, I mean in terms of, like, when I'm, like, the right-hand person to an artist, and I'm not offering, like, hey, you were really good. Like, or like that was a really good show. I struggle with this in all areas of life, but it is hardest in music, I think, for me to be like, well, good is adequate. Like, we should be good. Let me sum it up by saying I only in the past have offered negative reinforcement. Like, good is silent, vocal is negative.
You're like always looking for what you can work on, how you can get better. And
or just being like, if we do a good show, that's what we're supposed to do.
Right. That's the given.
Yeah. Right. And so that is just like net zero. And so, like, okay, cool. Yeah. We had a great show. And instead of, like, detailing it and trying to be more detailed in my praise.
I've been both people.
Yeah.
I've been both. Like, I think there's those days where I'm just like, it was just another working show.
Yeah. And
then there's days that I'm like, it was okay, but, like, oh my gosh, I got paid to make noise today. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
You know, and like who cares what it was? You know, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And those are shows. I don't watch any footage of shows that I enjoyed. Because it might ruin it for me. It might replace the memory with that one flat note I sang that just happened to be in the Instagram reel.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that happens.
It breaks your heart, kids.
sometimes it's interesting. One time we on the bus watched a show that had been streamed like right afterward because I had stolen it off the web.
You talked about this with Mike too. Hit me with your angle.
And just being like, yeah, we did talk about it and saying like, oh, I forget that drum loop is really loud in my ears.
Yeah.
And so I hear the show in this way, or that like, there's no count. There's no count off.
Yes,
you know, like
the part
that kind of thing.
That made me laugh, like grooving to the count off. I try so hard not to do that because I'll hear it in my ears and I'm like, all right, get in the zone, get in the zone. Yeah, no, I've actually caught myself doing that. I'm like, this looks so stupid to them. They're like, what is this girl doing?
Yeah, why am I just like, and some of it comes from like, I remember, I mean, of all the like meta life lesson trickery that Victor Wooten has said in life. And he, one time I heard him say like, or ask like, when does the song start? And there were a number of responses from people around. And he was like, no, as soon as we decide what the song is going to be is when it starts. Like from the time that the previous is over, then you need to be in the mindset of the next song. The count off that's like in the ears, like, okay, I need to be thinking what that groove is like.
Right. Like, how are you going to sit around? All you're hearing is 1, 2, 3. But like, is it like 1 and 2 and 3, or is it, a 1 and a 2,
or any of it? Just to be like, if it's straight, but then I'm thinking, well, when I have to start playing, I need to be playing this way or with this feeling. So I need to make, as soon as that time is established, I need to be feeling it that way. Yeah.
Well, because also like as a bass player, you're responsible for pocketing with the drummer and bringing everybody to the two of you, maybe.
Yeah.
You guys can set everybody up for like a lot of success or failure.
Oh, absolutely.
There. Yeah. Yeah. Been there and both theirs.
Yeah.
Visited.
Yeah. For sure. You've set up the first half of what my first like planned thought was.
Okay.
And so like you have a pretty good relationship with yourself.
Oh my gosh, that's a crazy question.
Well, it seems like that.
I hope so. I want to.
Well, I'm either going to help you prove that that's true or destroy it for you.
No, I think I do.
Okay, cool.
I think I do.
My prep for this was especially because Amanda hadn't ever seen it. The other night we watched 20 Feet from Stardom.
Oh, I have so much to say already.
Great. The thing that I want to establish is obviously like making that film had so much to do with appreciating the art, the concept of background singing, but also to celebrate unheralded talents of it.
Yes.
And so that film established exactly what it was supposed to do from a goal standpoint. If they were to make a second one, how do you feel about the fact that you would likely be in it?
That's an insane thing to say.
But it's not inaccurate. Your resume and like the fact that nobody that I know thinks badly of you, whether they be people who are the same people when you walked in here was like, I know so many people that are close to me that trust me. Wow, that was a pronoun fucking salad.
Hey, you know what? Pronoun salad is absolutely the name of my band. Let me start there.
That people that you know who deeply trust me, outside of those people, even casual people who just know of your existence and work, only have good things to say about you. And so just simply based on that, if they were to go out there trawling for, 20 Feet from Stardom, the sequel, that you would likely be one of those people.
Oh, God. Okay. I don't even really know how to process that question because, like, I went to go see that at the Belcourt 3 times and the amount of crying.
Yeah.
I remember I was with an ex when I saw it the first time and he, like, excused himself at one point. So, like, as not to be seen with me, well, I just heavy balled through the whole film. Because these were my heroes growing up and still are. Yeah. I mean, like, how do I feel about the fact that I might be in it someday? Like, I don't even know how to process that. Oh, God. I think like the point of that documentary too was
I suppose I'm not even like asking you what you think, more just being like reckoning with the idea, having just watched it again for the first time in probably 6 or 7 years the other night, to think like, oh, based on like your stature in that world now, that like you would be an obvious choice to be someone that
just, I don't even know. Like, I truly like, I don't know. I don't know. Cause like the truth is I'm an absolute nerd, dude.
Well,
yeah, I mean, we all are. Yeah. We all are. I will defend no musician. I don't care who it is.
I don't know. It's a millennial thing. I saw some tweet earlier today that was like, millennial culture is just using what little money you have to buy nerdy shit to make yourself feel better about the world around you.
Oh my god.
And I was like, well, that checks out.
Yeah, it's so true. Like if you look at my studio, it's like at first it's like, oh, it looks so nice. And it's like, oh, there's a brass brontosaurus. And then is that a Lego Guy Fieri? And okay. Which was a gift from one of my amazing choirs I worked with. Thank you guys. You guys rule. He holds a hot dog.
Of course he does.
Anyway, the first word that comes to mind is I am so grateful.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. I actually wanted to be a backup singer ever since I was little.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Red Rocks when I was 15 to see Lyle Lovett with my parents. I'm from Denver. Jason Eskridge, local hero, was singing background vocals. And I remember I just looked down and it was just like the spotlight on Lyle, all this pressure on Lyle, and Jason's back there having a blast and singing his actual brains out. And I looked at my mom and I was like, I want to do that. She was like, what? And I was like, I want to do that. And Jason is now just unbelievably fortunately a friend. And that's just crazy. But yeah, it just, the fact that I get to do it on the level I do and that I've gotten to check every box and have so many adventures.
Yeah.
You know, my dad actually said it to me a couple weeks ago. He was like, you're kind of done with your bucket list in that sense, aren't you? He's like, is there just a bunch of stuff left? I was like, no, there just isn't. Like,
yeah.
But like in the most grateful way ever. Like I can't believe that everything that is happening now, like is just getting added to the bucket list just to get crossed right off. Cause like I wouldn't have asked to do any of this. Like,
but now we'll get weird.
Hit it.
Now you get to transcend that. Like you've accomplished that list. And it's like now a lot of people would see it as like two paths in front of them about being like, well, do I do something else? Or do I just keep doing this? There's like a third secret dark matter option in between, which is the like, now you can like transcend that and make it a better thing. You know, you can chrysalis it.
Yeah, you've said that in a way I really appreciate. I have been very analytical because it feels like this year is the year where things have pivoted from hustle to like management for me, like where I'm no longer having to maybe go out and look for work as much, but rather kind of say, okay, what do I need to be doing? What would somebody else do better than me? Like I have more than I can do.
Yeah.
Like, how can I share this? And I have also been this year kind of transitioning into hiring singers a lot and kind of bringing people in. And in those ways, I'm kind of going, okay, like, is the singing that stimulating anymore? Sometimes no. Sometimes it's just easy and you just kind of do it. So I have extra energy.
Yeah.
And I very intentionally been working on placing it into, I have a big rule with myself. If like something someone is doing or something that is established is frustrating me, I'm not allowed to do or be that thing in response.
Sure.
So like if
say more. Yeah.
Yeah. If the music industry is a fucked up place, I don't think anybody doesn't share that opinion who's been near it for a while. I can become the older musician who has all the opportunities, who starts to like get worn down and sees it as a job. And I go, it's fucked up and I'm going to be fucked up too.
Sure.
And I can start gatekeeping and I can start hazing young musicians, stuff that we see a lot.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of that like, whatever, you're blah, blah, blah. You know, no. Or I can say, wow, this place is really fucked up. And like, I am now getting to hire people. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to be communicative. I'm going to fight for the best rates I can whenever I'm hiring people. I'm going to pay on time whenever that's in my power.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to make sure, and I'm not going to escalate situations that don't need it.
Yeah, for sure.
For instance, like there's this gig I was doing for a while where I was like bringing in a big choir. I'm sure you know of it because one of your friends is on it, but I can't talk about it because I've signed too many contracts. But that said, I had a bunch of people coming in every night, or not every night, but 3 nights a week. We were doing this like thing and it's like 40 people, tons of people to keep up with. And there were people who were late almost every single time. And I have been in those situations where somebody is like shaming someone as a human being for being late. Like, let's break that down for a second.
Yeah.
They still made the gig. Yeah. They came in with good attitude. You know, it was parking in an inconvenient area. Like there's a lot of annoying things about the gig. Here's the deal. Like I may not call you for sessions as much if you can't get your stuff together and show up on time and show me that respect.
Yeah.
However, I don't have a lack of perspective in that. That doesn't make you a bad person or a bad anything. Maybe you're just like, you've got poor time management because you've got severe untreated ADHD. Yeah. You made the gig every time. If you made the gig, you're going to get paid. And I'm not going to be a jerk to you about it.
Yeah.
Again, there are consequences. It's not like there's nothing.
Right, of course.
to lose or gain from behaving a certain way, but just even the ability not to make someone feel horrible about something that isn't a big deal. I'm really working hard to take that opportunity every time.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if that person like notices they're not getting called for something else, like we will have a kind conversation.
Yeah.
Like, no, you got to kind of earn back my trust here. You've chosen this.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm not going to make you feel terrible about that. That's just like, that doesn't make sense to me.
No, of course.
But people do. They act like music is the end all be all of the world. It's just like not.
No, I know somebody who was a band leader on a gig before I was there. And I am told that an often response to a mediocre show was like, it's just music. We're going to make more of it.
Yes. I think that's so healthy.
Yeah.
My favorite tour manager I ever worked with, I had a gig where this is my like first touring gig.
Mm-hmm.
It's like first I'm doing BGVs and they're like, oh, we actually need someone to run merch too. You want to get a little pay bump to run merch? I'm like, all right, because we're just working clubs at that point, you know?
Of course.
And then they're like, ooh, we kind of want somebody to like do our dressing room VIP setup. Like, and then I'm like, I'm working all day.
Yeah, of course.
But I used to get kind of stressed. And like at the time I had severely undiagnosed anxiety.
Uh-huh.
So, well, it was diagnosed. It just wasn't being treated.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
it was
that
being
whole
ignored.
thing. Yeah. Hey, they diagnosed me at 15 with a written test. I had a long journey to go on before I knew what the hell we were talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would get really stressed. And I had this amazing tour manager who had beat cancer twice. And he would just look at me like, you know, if the bus rolled in at 1 or 2, you know, one of those breakdown nights, you know how it is in early tour years. You're always on the worst buses. They're always waking up at 2 a.m. You're sweating out your clothes. You're on the side of the road, you know, smoking your first cigarette. Just like, this is what it is, isn't it? Anyway, but it's one of those nights. And I was like, oh, God, how am I going to get everything in? And he just looked at me and he's like, I beat cancer twice. You think we're going to put on a show today? I was like, oh, shoot. Like, yeah, good point. Like any perspective at all. Yeah. But people just get up in arms. And I understand, like, it matters so much to us. It's easy to miscast it in the priorities of the world because it's a priority for us as emotional beings. But at the end of the day, like, it's just singing.
Yeah. You made me think of something in terms of that, of the way people put pressure on a situation that in a lot of cases isn't even there. Place to put the pressure on.
And the artist wouldn't put it there. It's like the people that work for them that are like,
sure,
sometimes just being crazy.
But what I was going to say is, how often do you see a show where the artist forgets the lyrics or like something like happens?
It's the most endearing every single time.
Yeah. What does the crowd do? The crowd never boos. They cheer
it because they're like, oh, you're a person too. And that's healthy to see and feel.
Yeah. And the crowd gets to feel something or be a part of a moment that isn't typical. And so even if it's fucked up, it's special for them.
Oh, no. I watch the front row get so excited every time the artist forgets a lyric because they get to tell the artist.
Yeah,
they're like, look down, it's blah, 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 blah. You know, and they're like, you know, I told them I'm the best fan of them all.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's like, hell yeah, thanks, dude. Like, we just, I'm not going to lie, we had a drink beforehand. There was some stuff going on.
Yeah. And that's totally the thing too, right? Is like, I'm sure you heard me say this to Mike, like if you lose the feeling of being a fan, like of being the person in the front row when you're the person on the stage, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, and that's inevitable too. Like there are days it's work.
Yeah. It's a balance of that at all times.
Yes.
Like, but you have to sort of like, in the same way that I have the first cassette that was ever truly mine hanging in the studio, it's like I carry that with me because it is an important thing and it is in my professional space now. And obviously the way I feel about that is the way I want to feel about things that happen in here. And so if I can just like carry that with me in a little case to everything I'm doing professionally, like, you know, hugging your inner child repeatedly.
Your inner child deserves it. Let me say that first, because I really do believe that.
Yeah.
And that's it too. Like, I think in the way that I embody that, like, I refuse to see what I do as not play. Like, sometimes it is serious and sometimes like we got to buckle down and do it fast. But like, I'm telling you, if I've got a choir in my hands and I'm like, you're flat and no. And I'm like, whatevering.
What a time suck for one.
A, yes. Yeah. And B, like everybody's probably going to start singing worse. And the energy of the recording is going to be all off.
Yep.
We're not going to be having a good time. Not that that's the end all be all, but like at the same time, if I'm like, hey, dummies, that was flat, like use your air and we all laugh about it. Like I am king of jokes.
Yeah.
That was the stupidest thing I've ever said. I am not funny, but like I'm willing to make a joke in any situation in order to keep us moving in good energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess that's what I mean by king of jokes is I'm king of no inhibitions about the moment to make the joke.
Yeah.
Like literally, like somebody will come to me all stressed out in a gig moment, but like I'm managing this section of it and I'll be like, okay. And I'll turn around and be like, everybody is very upset. You better stand on your marks, bitches. Yeah. And like when we're all like, hee. And I'm like, that is what I'm here for. I'm like here to translate, but not like you want me to. I'm here to translate in the way that like keeps us all enjoying this thing that we fought so hard to do.
Absolutely.
We deserve it.
Yeah. Conduit and cop start with the same two letters, but they don't need to be the same like thing, you know?
Well, yeah. And like in the way that I was talking about escalation too, like I think like especially in tour scenarios, I've witnessed a lot. Like you even come home and you're trying to tell your friends a story that happened. They're like, why was that such a big deal? And you're like, oh, because there were 24 of us in that camp. Yeah. And it started as like between two people and it spun out and everybody got involved and everybody's talking and it's the gossip of the day and everybody's coming up to you asking about it. And it just spins. If the second person had heard it, had been like, man, that just sounds like a really frustrating moment. And we all left it there. Like that's what we all need. Yeah. But it's impossible to explain how much escalation can happen in these environments when you are maybe 2 hours from going on stage and you've got a security issue with the artist and something, you know, like you can do so many things wrong that you don't mean to. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And also, you know, you were just talking about neurodivergence in musicians as being like a thing or like for everybody.
You guys are all screwed. It's all of you.
But oh man, that's such a deep, dark rabbit hole.
No, it's not dark though. I
no,
think
it's not.
So
no.
Good.
Meaning, I meant for the purposes of like we could like travel down that rabbit hole.
Oh yeah. No. My neurological opinions will stay. Well, no, they won't stay inside. I already did it. No. But they will stay somewhat muted because you know what? I'm also a believer in talking about what you know about, and I have studied it a lot. But I am a singer, so you know.
But the thing, what I was gonna say is like nobody employs. Like I am so big on taking my inspirations and my enrichments of what I do musically from non-musical places.
Yeah.
And in a similar vein, the way that like there's a lot of really bad business coaching and organization and stuff out there, but there are also very good ones. And that thing never filters down to us. Like that never quite happens the same way on a tour. Now there are like very necessary physical things that make that a difficult way to be. But also it's just like, I don't know, I'm trying not to use the word professionalism because everyone's being professional, but like in a way that is just like, maybe it's all mindset. And like, if you're in a mindset of a healthy functioning body and trying to make it work most of the time and having, you know, the way an office works, you know, like, and they have a lot of the same problems, but musicians, because we're all fucking weird, like exacerbate a thing and end up, you know, like, in the weeds way quicker.
Yeah. Neurodivergence contributes potentially greatly to that. Potentially greatly. Because that is one of the key pieces of neurodivergence is some emotional instability, some reactivity, some inability to regulate the nervous system. Yeah. So like, I mean, I can speak for myself and say I was on a music video shoot last year that had strobe lights and it was freezing cold and we were not dressed for that. They just kept turning the music up louder and louder. Yeah. And I had a near panic attack during the video shoot. Yeah. And you just like, you're drawing attention to yourself. You don't want it to be the case. You just want to sit there and do your stupid little loo. But you're like, bro, like I can't handle this much sensory stuff. And I ended up like having to ask them to turn it down. And it wasn't comfortable, but like these are things that luckily, because a lot of us feel the same way. Yeah. I find a lot of support from our community too, because like, even if you don't, like I've done a lot of research to understand some of what's happening to me. A lot of people haven't. Sure. But they look at it and they go, that's normal because it's their normal. Yeah. Right. And then it ends up still being a good and supportive environment, even if you don't know that you also are maybe on the spectrum.
Yeah. Which
is a great thing.
Well, I have some friends who, it's funny you say that, it's a thing I stand by heavily and I have not looked into whatsoever. Maybe I should have an expert in this on the show and we can talk about it. I have some friends who worked with whatever the acceptable word for that is in schools. And they were both of the opinion that the spectrum is much wider and more nuanced than like anyone generally gives it credit for, and we all exist on it.
Yes.
Like the spectrum contains everybody, and they're just more micro increments.
That's what I feel like I'm starting to understand about it. Like, I would say, like, even the terms like highly functioning are interesting. Where I feel like I've learned the term like high masking, which is like, okay, like you say high functioning, it sounds like a compliment of the person.
Yeah.
But the truth is, for someone like me who like I've never been fully evaluated, but like I've got my suspicions.
Yeah, for sure.
And I got my suspicions because people talk about what it is. I'm like, yeah, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that. And I'm like, okay, I'm high masking. Everybody always thought I was fine. Not always thought I was fine. That's not true at all. My teachers, my parents put a good amount of effort into going like, what is it? But I wasn't a kid that needed like ADHD medication support as a kid. I was willing to be quiet and just tumble around my brain.
Yeah.
But that said, when I think about those things, it's like I look around kind of understanding maybe more the nuanced, like how does this exhibit itself through a mask?
Yeah.
And I start to evaluate my own experience and I look around, I'm like, well, that means it's you and you and you and you and you.
Yeah.
But like in the best way, in that like, I think that there's this sticky little community of us that would have come together either way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't mean to say us, including you.
Yeah. Oh no, I
pretty
understand
open.
very much the like the feeling like within the past 2 or 3 years, I'm like, I wonder if just a little bit like, and it comes from like when, you know, like what's the easiest way to say that people say things about spectrum stuff is, and again, I claim to be no expert. So terminology judgment be damned.
Take notes, friends.
People that are on the spectrum, like just don't experience the world in the same way. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I feel that.
That's
like,
the whole definition.
Cool. Good. Got it right. But just the idea of like thinking about, like, I've thought that for a long time about myself, but then I think like I would never relate it to that. And then just in thinking about it, being like, oh, well, maybe that is the thing. Like, if you say it and you don't mean it a certain way, maybe you mean it that way and you're just not connecting.
Yeah. And I know why specifically our like generation of people has struggled with figuring some of this out.
Microplastics.
It's the microplastic. It's the government. No, it's because we were raised in the 90s. I mean, I assume we're about the same age.
Yeah.
87?
86, yeah. That's almost exactly,
Yeah, cute. That is how it was presented to us. It was another class in school. Yeah, like there was no space for, like, let's be real. Like, I have a friend who always jokes, like, all the neurodivergent kids just ended up in the gifted program.
Sure, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, and those were all my friends growing up. Like, that's what we did. You know, then the other neurodivergent kids who couldn't stop moving their bodies were just, like, treated poorly in the same context. You know, it's like, we looked at all of it like bad.
Yeah,
I don't want to be in those clubs, you know, and so I think it is a longer journey for most of us to be like,
well, you're talking about standardized testing too. Meaning, I say that I've said that wrong. Like, we would have seen it as bad at that time simply because it didn't color inside the lines. Yeah. You know, like I use standardized testing to mean like it either is or it isn't, and it's not the middle. Right. There, anything in the space. Yeah, in the space.
No gray.
Yeah.
Black or white.
I always describe it as like most real things are what happens when you blur your eyes.
I love that.
Or that nothing is the bricks, it's the mortar in between. Like the truth is like those spots, you know, like those are the two ways I often describe it.
Absolutely. And I think just being more open-minded about everybody's experience and realizing it's not our own. Yeah. That goes really far too. And that's of course just a giant vague thought, but it's a truth. Like when I think about my frustrations in the whole wide world. Yeah. It's that we're like trying to tell everybody like what to be or how to live or try to control people, where it's just like, dude, like they're not hurting you. Yeah. It's okay for somebody to have a different experience and for you to just listen and go like, wow, that sounds like not like my experience.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm going to just believe you. That's cool.
I'm reading a history book right now that is, it talks a bunch about how to evaluate history. And a lot of it has to do with that going just on like names, dates, and places isn't history. History is
No.
like all the viewpoints that are like looking at a central thing.
Yes.
And the layering of those on top of each other is what actually creates like, the history. And it's the same way of just experience. Like that is a way of, we're talking about the same thing, but I'm thinking of it by talking about this history thing as a retroactive individualistic view as opposed to a rolling individualistic view of how everything is going on around us. And there's a lot going on.
Oh God. I fall in the category of shitty Americans that is just like, I'm not tuned out, but I am taking in what I can handle in the name of being an okay person to deal with day to day.
And I didn't even mean that way. I meant like just in culture too. Like,
oh yeah, no, I mean
it's so micro niche-y that like finding good requires a lot of being aware and
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Micro niche is a great also micro niche. Nope, I'm not going there. I'm not creating a whole, well, I would say Twitter account, but I don't have any of it. So no.
Yeah.
Screw you, TikTok. Not the people on it. You guys are fine, ladies and gents, or theys and thems, dogs and cats and koalas too.
Koalas?
I'm going to have the koala activists coming after me, no question after that. They eat eucalyptus, guys. They get high for fun.
Eucalyptus and champagne sounds like a...
That's my other band. From the girl that's never had a band. So many. That's not true. I've had lots of bands, but...
Yeah.
Oh, God. No, let's not go there.
Well, you need to have just enough to do the thing that you heard me say about being like, the more musicians that have come from bands, the better off we are collectively.
Oh, let me just say one of my proudest truths is that when I've got a singer who can't sing with the music coming to me for some help, first thing I stick in their hand is a shaker. And I'm like, you shake until that's right. And then you can add your voice to that.
Yeah. As someone who is a poor to serviceable background singer while playing the bass.
Serviceable is the best adjective I've ever heard for that.
Like if I'm singing on a gig, like something has gone a little wrong.
It's okay. If I'm playing bass on a gig, someone has literally been in the bathroom for so long that we have also called the cops.
Yeah. Gosh, I think about like the thing I've always wanted to do about playing and singing at the same time. Like, I don't know why there are so many bass players that have to become background singers on acts because it is the hardest thing.
It doesn't make sense to go together.
Yeah. So like those two things are not supposed to go.
Even just tuning your voice and needing to have that much bass in your ears is incredibly difficult. Incredibly.
Yeah. I think often that like sometimes when I have to like write charts off work tapes of someone playing acoustic, I'm in trouble because like now that it's phone memos, it's like, well, I play one note at a time. And so sometimes, that's another thing too about like being not a great background singer is I think that the majority of my life has been spent playing one note at a time as opposed to playing chords and hearing inherent harmony between notes is not something that works for me. Someone that's playing keys is hearing that relationship. Yeah. And so the fact that I'm just playing one note.
Right. You're focused in on one part of the sound.
Which is why maybe that I think about, this is something that was in my like weird little notes here. I love big stacked harmonies, but I also am a real big sucker for like counter melody harmonies.
Oh, hell
that don't necessarily make like things like a lot of Beatles stuff. Where like all that early stuff where it's like John and Paul just kind of like riding together and like
right. It's like making two melodies that are like interesting and standalone instead of
early Weezer is another good example too.
Hell yes.
Like all that stuff is not necessarily like
I love River's Brain.
Yeah, it just it wouldn't look good stacked out on transcribed, but it would be the thing. And it's the same thing for me. I see so much of my job playing bass, or I have taken it upon myself to be the person that creates movement. That like so much of the band, like when we stay and when we go, depends on if I have decided if I am going to stay or go.
Yeah.
And
you have to be a leader on that instrument massively.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm realizing in real time now that maybe that is the reason why I like harmonies that way so much, like things that are counter melodic, that they appeal to me because they're creating movement rather than these like, not static is not the right word, but like things that move all together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In big, beautiful, plodding stacks.
Plotting. Yeah, I mean, like time and a place for all of it. And
Of course.
That's the fun part. Like I get to do so much random different stuff. Like country, we sticking around. We're going to stick right there with your artist.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're doing something with a bluegrassy, you get to do a little bit more of
for sure.
wandering around and playing with that.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, where I end up doing a lot of counter melody kind of stuff is like when I'm doing more choral stuff and I'm actually getting to arrange like party part parts. Because then people don't go, what's that weird note?
Yeah.
What's that weird note? Story of my life. It's the worst thing people say to me. It's just an interesting one. You might like it.
Yeah.
Give it a minute.
Yeah.
No, but in general, yeah. That's
also, it's gonna change. Like,
oh yeah.
That's the thing I'm saying about like things that might not necessarily be like perfect theoretical harmony for like the counter melody stuff is it's gonna move in a second and it's gonna be some sort of tension and release and all those things that are fundamental to good music.
What if there was a major too? What if?
Yeah.
For a beat.
Yep.
What if? I don't know. It gets crazy. We love a whole step. We don't. But I mean that, and then you're gonna start hearing from my like young vocal jazzer inside of me.
Yeah.
She's a mess. And I was like one of those. I did all, I did like the competitions and it's so dorky. But
that was me as a Berkeley kid. I don't think that I wasted any time there.
But if you did.
However, it was on the first 2 years of thinking I could play jazz.
You know what it is jazz is amazing. I love jazz. Ella Fitzgerald will forever be one of my favorite singers of all time. Sarah Vaughan. I mean, Anita. I could go on.
Of course.
We could do this.
Yeah.
But the truth is, like, I think it is a tough environment to put yourself into depending on what you really want out of this. Because it's like there is a very specific community. It has a very specific attitude. And, like there's a very specific ceiling on it. As far as today's stuff goes, that's why I had to get out. But I love it. Like it's like every type of music has so much value. It's just,
of course it does.
It's just like, what are you going to pull out of it? Like what it adds to your thing. And for me, it is trying to shove interesting notes into sessions that don't want me for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked with Mike Rennie about that, where we were talking about him saying that he was on a session and he was trying to figure out something cool for the bridge. And the producer said, I like when you play the bass. And he said that he was like, yep, yeah, I do. Playing the bass is great.
I will stop trying to come up with an idea. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
But you know what? Like, I like that.
I do too.
I like when a producer is just like, hey, I want to drive right now. Because I'm like, that is your job. That is what you're being paid for.
Yeah.
I am very happy to be used as a tool as long as we all just know we're like don't invite my ideas and then be rude to me about it necessarily. But like, if you're like, I want to do this, just say it. Like, I'm happy to let you do it.
What is the way that you most feel okay with being told that your idea isn't going to work?
For the people at home, the smile on his face as he asks this question.
It's just great. Well, I mean, I'm just thinking
and I'm fully distracted by your smile. Ask that question one more time if you don't mind. I have the ADHD.
What is your, what way makes you feel maybe the least shitty about being told that your idea is not going to work?
Oh, I don't care at all.
Cool.
Like you can just be like my favorite, oh, I'm so scared to even say this out loud. I don't have favorite anythings of anything. But if I did have a favorite producer I work with, it's because we're really old friends. Like we've literally been roommates, but his career has just exploded. He has his own label. I'm so proud of him. He's so sick. But we both, like, he'll pitch me an idea and I'm like, that doesn't work vocally. That's stupid. Yeah. And then I'll pitch him an idea and I'll be like, that sucks. And like, we laugh our asses off. Yeah. And like, I would rather just be honest. Like,
sure.
I never take it personally if you hate my idea.
Yeah.
Because I'm here for the song. Like, I'm here for the song and the song isn't mine.
Right.
Like,
absolutely.
I didn't write it. It's not that I don't care how it comes out. Of course I care.
Our general roles share that in that we are supportive.
100%.
Like it is not going to be me showing off.
Yeah.
Very rarely serves the thing.
100%.
So like I am in service as a bass player.
Same. Like I actually always joke that bass players and BGVs get along because if we're killing it, no one notices. And if we do something wrong, everybody hates us. Mm-hmm. And it's very obvious.
Yeah, that's right.
But that said, I'm 100% in service of the song. Like, so like my ego doesn't, I hope if there's a reason people like working with me, part of it is that I'm like not walking in the room like, I'm this amazing singer. You're so lucky to have me and my ideas. And like, I could give a shit. Like, it's your record. You've been on the journey with your record. I'm going to come in for probably an afternoon.
Yeah.
And like, that's going to be my experience with it. So like, I can't walk in being like, this is my ego's project. Like, it's not mine. If everybody hates that record, people are not going to be like, wow, Kristen.
Yeah.
No, they're going to like say it to the artist. Like, that person's going to get raked over the coals or absolutely loved, or no one will listen. You know, like it doesn't matter what the outcome is for me. But I keep that in mind. Like, if you call me to use a tool, and like, I'm very willing to be that tool within reason. I will say there are a couple times, there was a particular artist I told I had no availability to when they called me to sing on their record. There's a very, very, very occasional circumstance. But that would usually be because of things I believe. And I'm allowed. I'm allowed to not.
Yeah. That kind of goes back along to something that I was thinking about before, very early on in this discussion. And you said about how, you know, I don't remember exactly what it was that you said, but you struck this chord of like age and maturity and like progression of getting to like deserve a little bit of breathing room in level of work and stuff. Like, it's so different when you feel like I have to do everything, every call that comes in has to be answered, and I have to do it because like what's going on otherwise.
Yeah, because like I'm trying to pay my bills. Yeah, there were many, many, many years that look like that.
Yeah. And I say that all to say the thing about sometimes like if you can like hold on in this business we work in and you're good at what you do, you sort of like, not automatically, but like it's there. Like the ability to attain a space rather than a grind is there for the taking. You know, if you can be professional, do good work.
And have all the lucky opportunities and you know, I think there's so many things that contribute to exactly. I love the way you said like a space instead of a grind. Like you stay here and it's sustainable. And I admit like that's exactly the season I'm in, is figuring out whether it is sustainable. Like I very intentionally came off the road this year to take a little space and to breathe. And I was gone more than 200 days last year. It was stupid. Just stupid for like being a person. It's just, you can't, you have your life chopped up in all these bits and you know, you got to like go visit them. It's weird. You're like, oh God, my home bit. Why are all my plants dying?
It's funny you say that. I was just because Chris Bodie, the trumpeter, is in that 20 Feet from Stardom documentary a little bit. And I remember him saying one time that he spent years like living in hotels and that he had like 2 Rubbermaid totes worth of stuff because it would just be like, I'm on this
like,
tour
what's the
and
point?
then I'm on this tour and I'm over here. And then like, why even pay rent on a space? Like,
a lot of my friends don't that tour a lot. Like
leave your 2 totes of things with someone and then grab them when it's.
Yeah, I mean, when I got home from my first pretty immersive tour, which was like most of a year and a half, when I got home, I was just like, why do I have so much crap? Like, it annoyed me. It annoyed me at first. And now I'm like, why do I have to leave my crap? But, you know, the pandemic really did a number on like, you got to be home for a while and go like, what is it? For those of us, like I've been on tour pretty much on and off since I got out of college until then. I was like, oh my gosh. Being home is great. Like going to sleep at the same time. Yeah. Like eating only the stuff I mean to eat. Like, you know what I mean?
You're not eating baked ziti 5 times a week?
Y'all, for those of you dreamers out there, early country music touring is a lot of looking somebody's auntie in the face while they serve you their home style award-winning barbecue, best in the everywhere every time. And guys, it is not always. Now, let me say, this is the coolest because you're playing someplace where like the actual people running it are feeding you and being amazing.
Yeah, but then you move up.
But you have to look in their eyes when you eat it. And sometimes that's hard.
Oh, yeah. It's real bad.
Sometimes it's hard.
But then also you move up to theaters and they give you a taco bar every day for 3 months. You know, like.
And you're like, I hate tacos and it's not even anyone's fault.
The worst was there was a Christmas tour once where we had butternut squash soup every night. And I get it. Every theater thinks, oh, we'll give them something seasonal, a butternut squash soup.
Yes.
And then you think to yourself, 12 of you thought that all within a few weeks of each other. And I am so fucking tired of this soup.
Yep. I admit there was a brief time we were on tour when I was with a band called Thousand Horses back in the day.
Yeah.
My boys, love you guys. They are still putting out music and they rule.
They sure are.
And they are such wonderful humans. But we had on our writer for a while. The only thing on our writer was no barbecue because we were we're like, I can't eat anymore. I was trying to be vegetarian for about a month of that tour, and the amount of like meals I ate that were just coleslaw and rolls because they put ham like in the green beans.
Yeah.
You're just out there just like, I love coleslaw and rolls.
Yeah.
I just can't wait to get a microwave burrito so I can have some protein.
Yeah, gosh.
But I lived,
Yeah.
and here we are.
Dodging back to something else that I thought about, and you brought it up in a certain way. You were talking about that Lyle Lovett show and
Oh, hell yeah.
watching Jason Eskridge like be not paid attention to. How do you find the balance, or like what's it like to need to find the balance between, because people do, when I think of what I refer to as the nons, meaning non-musicians, like
I call them muggles. I stole that from a friend. Shout out Melissa.
I mean, that's a legitimate way to look at it.
It's great. Yeah, no, Ravenclaw, but sure, muggles.
Same.
Yeah, no, I know.
Incredible.
He's no Slytherin. I got an edge of Slytherin. Don't mess with me.
But, people love watching background singers when
Sure.
they're not in the dark. As long as you're not in the dark, people love watching it. And it's like, because you have to like represent and stuff. Or the question I'm trying to ask is, how do you deal with needing to be people like, the background singers for the Talking Heads who are
oh my gosh.
They're out there.
Oh, that's some of my favorite footage in the doc.
Absolutely.
It's so hot.
That entire film is incredible.
I should have worn my David Byrne shirt today. I got one where he's just dancing in different shapes all over. He's so sick. Yes, I know what you're saying. Like, how do I balance like my own performance within the context?
Or like, I guess, it's a number of questions. Like, is it like, which do you prefer? Like, being sort of out of the way and doing your shit versus having to be the like, look at us, we're having a great time on stage with this artist, and wardrobes and things. Like, background singers have to deal with a lot like of little shades of like, how do you be part of the presentation kind of thing. Yeah, that's very fairly acknowledged. I would say, first of all, like in general, like how do I figure out kind of what I'm bringing to the table fits in the category of reading the room like any other time. If the artist is going for it, I'm going for it. I'm joining you. If the artist is being a little less giving of energy or more demure, whatever you want to call it, chances are I'm kind of maybe just like barely swaying a hip and staying out of the way. Because every show is so different. But that's what I mean. You're like in such a position to have so many different requirements. Yeah. Like the spectrum of requirements of what that presentation of background singers is like. A million. And like, sometimes I'm just taking direct cues too. Like there's an artist I work for and who I just love so much. His name is Wesley Rogers. We always joke that we're related because we actually do kind of look alike, and our families are based in the same region. We have the same spelled Rogers last name. Anyway, that's my son. And he is like a cannon to perform with. He is the most energy. He is all over the stage, which I find incredibly fun. Yeah. And I remember my second show with him was at Lala, and he was in it, and he like ran over and slid into me and like kind of almost knocked me over while I'm doing this part where I kind of sing by myself. And I just kind of looked down at him. He's like 9 years younger than me and just like has all this energy. And so I just grabbed him by his shirt, just started screaming at him in his face. Incredible. Because I'm like, if you're going to do it, I'm here for it. Yeah. And we got off stage and he looked at me kind of later and he just goes, hey, more. And I was like, loud and clear, baby. Yeah. And we go so hard when we perform together. We have so much fun. And I just know that there's nothing I do on that stage that's unwelcome. Sure. Like Jake wants you to be there with him. He wants you to be running around with him. Yeah. Not running around necessarily. Sure, I stay on my stand mostly. But if I like want to, do whatever diva thing, like that's what I'm there for. Yeah. And then there's absolutely, more tender things. I got to sing last year. The only time I've ever gotten to sing with her live, I've gotten to do 4 records with Lori McKenna. But I got to go do a show with her. And Lori's going to stand there with her guitar and break your heart in a million bits 15 times. I don't need a step touch.
I don't need to move around. I don't need to do anything but stay out of her way so
Yeah.
she can preach to the people. In a gig like that, I'm like so conscious of just like, Queen Lori, you're going to hear me. You're never going to think about me.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not standing out enough that you're thinking about me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love both.
Mhm.
I love both. If I'm going to be honest, if I'm going to go on a tour and do something every night, I kind of want the throw tambourines at people
Sure,
role. I
yeah.
do want to sing with David Byrne.
Yeah.
I want the full choreo. I want to
Yeah.
like, because honestly, even just on a stimulation level, I like multitasking. I like playing a lot of percussion. On the
Yeah.
Hozier tour, I got to play keys and synth bass and
Yeah.
lots of different percussion. There was a song where I had to like transition between two songs with just me playing a triangle, which is like terrifying. It's like ding, 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 ding. But like I practiced it so much.
Which
And
I will say, like, good for him for that not being a track.
oh yeah, no
You know,
tracks
like-
on that gig.
Yeah, which is like great, you know.
It is
Like,
great. It is great. And like,
Not that I have anything. I just mean in terms of being like, it would have been so easy
yeah.
for a transitioning triangle part.
Oh,
to
100%.
be
And
just
it would have
in the
been more
track and-
stable for the band and all of
Yep.
these things. But instead, we spend some time on it.
Yeah.
And that's like the difference in wanting to do that. Like, and I feel empowered by it because I went home and I bought a fork and triangle and I practiced because
Yeah.
the first time we performed that was on TV. And so I'm sitting there just like, I better have my diddle little lings down. As the player in that situation, I highly preferred it to it being in the tracks because I'm like, yeah, let me work on this. Give me something to do. Let me fail, whatever it is. Like, I'm down.
Yeah.
I want that. The thrill isn't there if the thrill isn't there. When I'm singing over tracks of myself, the thrill is not as much there because it doesn't matter what I do as much.
Yeah.
You know, like whenever I'm singing and it like matters and I'm not tuned and there's nothing. I mean, I'm not tuned on any of my live gigs that I know of. But if I am, y'all call me. You better let me know.
Yeah.
I did not agree to that. Yeah, like
Or please let me fix it. Let me do better.
no, that's me though. I'm like,
Yeah.
I say this in the studio all the time. Like somebody would be like, oh, I think we got the emotion in that take. It's just a little flat. And I'm like, it's going to take me 10 seconds to sing it one more time now that I know the little thing I keep singing flat. And it's going to take you 5 minutes to get Melodyne involved. And where is it? Is it here or here? Just let me do it one more time.
Also, you said it without the talkback mic being on. Why not say it with it being on and then I'll fix it? Like,
No,
we
they'll
already
say
took
it to
that
me.
time.
They'll say it
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
They will. I appreciate that. I want that relationship with everybody I work with because sometimes you just don't hear when you're flat.
Yeah.
I'm inside a whole lot of tissues. I don't hear things the way you do.
Yeah.
My ooh is flat sometimes, especially when I get to the high part of my range. I know this.
Mhm.
My A, that vowel, always struggles. Like these are things I've worked my whole career to know.
Yeah.
So if I'm like singing, it takes a lot, and the A is flat, and you tell me, I'm going to go, of course it is, because it's always flat, and I'm just going to do the things I do. You know, it takes a lot. You can even hear that one immediately was better in tune, just thinking about it.
I'm going to tune the first one anyway.
Would you please? If I don't hear T-Pain on that, who is a great singer, never needed it.
Yeah.
Then I'm boycotting your podcast going forward. That's what I threaten. Which doesn't matter at all. But yeah, like I'm always willing to have the conversation. But again, like, I don't know, nobody asked for my advice, but if you want to be a working player, don't be precious.
Yeah.
Just don't. I'm flat all the time. Can't wait to be flat again. Because it'll just remind me of my own humanity while people have crazy things to say to me, like you might be in the next documentary.
Yeah, right.
No, my humanity is more real than that. And whatever somebody could ever think about me for being in a documentary, like my humanity is still more real.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's like the thing that I think is so important for us to cling to.
Well, but that's the thing, right? Like it's funny because you say that and it's absolutely true. And even though I didn't necessarily ask the question that way, obviously, if they were to make a sequel to 20 Feet from Stardom, and I say that you would be obviously in it, they would be interested in your humanity.
I hope so.
Well, I mean,
my work it's already there.
Yeah. I mean,
who cares?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, yeah, you could just put that on display and it'd be whatever.
Is that, actually, let's listen to one more. Ooh, wow, another ooh. She's done it again. Like, there's only so much to talk about.
Yeah, it's true.
The amount of my life that's just an ooh.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Again, I revere and like avert my eyes from good background singing. But
the way we're talking about it is all going in my diary. I love this so much.
But it's true. I feel that way about so many different musics. You know, like I hate bass players so much.
They're my number one friend in every single band. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I love you guys. I love you guys enough for all of your hatred.
There's like a small group of bass players that I feel good about. And then like for the most part, I'm like, oh yeah, you're another one of the ones with bodies in the basement.
Look, it's just that you guys won't talk to each other because there's literally no chance for you to ever be on a gig together.
Sure,
like guitar players sometimes, keys players sometimes, drummers and bass players, you guys are meant to never meet.
Yeah. Although drummers tend to do hangs better.
They
drummers have little pockets of community.
There's a cute community in Nashville for drummers. But I think it's largely too because there's drum stores.
Yeah.
There's stores just for drums.
Right.
Forks and Nelson. What's up, guys? We love our locals. Sometimes I buy a tambourine there. I get lots of help from the staff. Tell you what.
All my weird shakers over there from Nelson.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, you got a little shaker tub.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some tambourine drawers. Multiples. I got a problem. But anyway, I always joke like about a church, but like they have a church.
Yeah.
And they go hang, and there's little gigs in those spaces.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, bass players, like you guys would never make a church. You don't want to hang out. You don't want to talk to nobody.
No.
Unless you've got a podcast. I respect it.
And I've had one bass player on so far. I mean, there have only been 16 episodes, but I've only
and see, as like a notorious bass player girl, that's like the episode. I was like, I gotta go make sure I listen to this one.
Yeah.
But also because Mike's a friend.
Yeah.
But it is pretty classic of me. Like I always joke.
Oh, but I was saying about drummers, like, I mean, one, they are my kin inside of an ensemble, but like, yeah, I just nerd out about like drum stuff. Like drum stuff makes me feel better than most bass players.
That's fair.
Do like when I listen to music. And it's probably a predisposition to listening to drummers on the gig, and so I'm listening to drummers off the gig. There's nothing to me like music without a bass player.
Yeah, interesting.
If I can listen, or even like upright. Like I love bluegrass in a lot of ways because I play left-handed. I don't own an upright right now, so like I don't play any upright, so it doesn't feel like something that like I'm gonna think about.
Sure. It doesn't take you into work mode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I get that. And I would say for a background singer, I mean, addressing that thought, like there aren't enough of us for me to get sick of us.
Sure.
I'm obsessed with us.
Yeah.
I love singing.
Great.
I love singers. I mean, I can tell you like the live records where like the BGVs blow my mind because there just aren't that many.
What are some live records where the BGVs blow your mind?
I'll just give you number one. I'll give you number one.
No, give me like 5 of them.
This is my number one artist.
I need content for reels, so this is like I know. I
only say because like I resonate with your struggle.
Yeah, I hate it so much, and I'm like, oh, here I can go. I can ask you about this, and then you can give me your little list.
I'll reel you.
Yeah.
I'll reel you good. The best recorded live BGVs I've ever heard are on Shaka Khan's Stompin' at the Savoy record.
Yeah.
I believe it is 1984. That doesn't make any sense to me because they did not overdub that record, and the BGVs sound so heavily mixed, so balanced, so perfected, so nuanced. They were working out there. I'm obsessed with that record.
Yeah,
those records.
Well, sure. Yeah.
It's a 2 vinyl if you've got the records. Stompin' at the Savoy, listen to it. Runner up. And this is actually for opposite reasons. This is the messiest and the most fun. Because messy is fun. Messy is so fun. Mad Dogs and Englishmen.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's a classic. And that's actually did we meet at that?
Yeah, that's the first time.
We did meet at that.
Well, no.
No, because I thought we met before that, but like that's like the first time we really hung out.
Yeah. We met a couple other times, and I am a reformed, socially awkward person. And when I say reformed, I'm still fucking socially awkward as shit, but being like more aware of it and being more like, okay, I can work with this.
Yeah.
Especially given the way that we are told to be about impressions and things. If you don't remember that we hung out before then,
no,
I get a new number one, like a new first impression hangout thing, and it's like, okay, cool.
I know we met before that. Yeah. I just feel like that was the first time we really hung
that's for
out
sure.
And like got to talk. Which, for context, everyone, we went to go see Tedeschi Truck's band making a documentary about Mad Dogs and Englishmen, the record, and recreating it completely live.
When the fuck is that documentary going to come out for home?
Does it not? Has it not come out?
No.
It was so great at the Belcourt.
That's 3 years ago.
Yeah, but we all know what was going on.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah. It's so good. But yeah, that record was a huge deal to me. I found a lot of these things when I was an adult and thinking about doing this. And I think that's why they had such a big impact on me, because I'm going like, I know what my own live recordings sound like. I know what my own potential is, and it is not that. I will always respect the older players who did the work with their blood and sweat, who like practiced to go record their records, who practiced immensely for their tours so that they could not screw up. Like we don't do it like that anymore.
No.
We're okay with screwing up, which is okay too. And we're also okay with more editing live.
Sure. You said things about being messy, and it's funny that
messy's my favorite.
Well, but it's funny that you bring up the Mad Dogs and Englishmen stuff because
it is.
Well, it is. And
you can hear a bunch of people run around stage, didn't know what they're singing.
Yeah, and they talk about that in 20 Feet from Stardom, about like going from a much more controlled environment to going to that, and it just being so much more warm and organic and whatever. And
yeah. Which we keep referencing 20 Feet. I want to say one thing about 20 Feet because it matters.
Give me your whatever about it, because it is sort of like...
I have one big thought. Yeah. Which is that documentary was made with a very specific point about BGVs to make.
Which was that point?
Well, two very big points, actually. And I want to very carefully address both because it matters. The one that I can't speak to as much is the cultural aspect of that this was also a transition when white bands, musicians, singers were starting to use black singers for the first time in a slightly stigmatized way.
Sure.
I feel like that is very fairly addressed in the documentary. And like that is why we're talking to the singers that we are in that documentary is because a lot of them were also, I don't want to say being used in a certain kind of way. Cause like, yes, everybody's getting paid. Like in theory, everybody's showing up because they want to be there. But it definitely became something of a cultural conversation at the same time. Is like, what are background singers? What do they look like? What do they do? Who are they? And I hate the ways in that time that was like stigmatized and ever made those women and men feel that.
Well, I was Darlene Love cleaning houses.
Because, and that's like that's just the messed up music industry. That's just somebody who never gave her credit.
Yeah, of course.
Which could have been for any reason, but regardless, that is a very important point that I do want to acknowledge because that's still a conversation. Is background singers, you're looking around and being like, oh, there's an all white band, and we're not. It's like this weird stereotype that goes a lot of different directions and can feel really weird to a lot of my friends. And we talk about it a lot. And I'm just here to say, like, you're here because you have the best voice and thank you. And I love you.
Yeah.
But the second thing that was doing was also highlighting, you brought up Darlene Love, these heartbreaking stories of people who wanted to make it, but ended up kind of getting stuck in the background vocal world. And that, I admit, like, that's the part of it that I do take issue with, actually. And that's the only issue I have with the documentary is that, like, I'm out here living my dream. And there are not that many background singers that are. There are a lot of background singers. And there's a lot of people that call me. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you've called me and said, like, oh, I just want to pivot into it because it sounds easy, that's offensive. I'm going to say it to you now.
Well, but that's why offensive. I brought up, I mean, like, I said the thing about having nothing to do with singing, about all the non-singing parts of what a gig is like from an image thing, that there's such a spectrum of that.
But even the singing.
That's what I was going to say is, like, I don't, in retrospect of asking that question, I want to be clear that I'm talking about both. There's a lot of like hard work that goes into like an image thing for that, because it can be so many various things and you've got to be ready, for any of that. But it's also
my year of country western Barbie. I'm here for it.
It is also so much of the like needing to be able to do that with anybody, and in any situation or any number of vocalists.
Well, and being a blendy singer, being a singer that can hear parts really fast, being a singer who can tune in all parts of your range. Just the difference in if I'm going to sing and you guys guessed it, and ooh, like, let's just say, like, you can hear my speaking voice. Yeah. It's pretty bright, pretty high. Mm-hmm. So if I'm not thinking about it, and ooh for me is probably going to be like, ooh, which blends with nothing.
Yeah.
Which blends with nothing. Where I'm probably going to just start an ooh if I'm singing with singers I don't know is probably like, ooh. And you can hear like that softness around the pitch. There's a little bit more of a dark formant vowel. Ooh. It's going to pop out a little more. So then I'm covering a more dynamic range. So no matter where you're coming in, there's a chance we're going to line up somewhere in that. Those nuances make great BGVs or not. Yeah, and if you're saying the word I, did you say I or hi? I mean, just onset of a forking word like can just absolutely be the reason you're sucking or not,
Yeah.
So yeah, there's an immense amount of layers to loving it and to what it means to love it and put into that. And I didn't see that anywhere in the doc when I watched it. The only person who brought that to the table is Lisa Fisher, who's my living hero.
Yeah.
Never will meet you, Lisa. Don't call me. She's just an unbelievable wizard of voice. But she loves it. And she loves, she got the Grammy. She had the solo career. I mean, you just watched it last night. She was like, I hate this. And that's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I had a record deal opportunity when I was a teenager and like ran screaming to Nashville to do this instead. Because I was like, ugh. all they gave me was a personal trainer and a stylist. He didn't write a single song.
Typical story. I mean,
6 months of development deal in 2005.
Did you watch the Alanis documentary?
No, but I
on HBO on Max.
That era is tough for me.
It's like her teenage pre, all the stuff she did in Canada before she made Jagged Little Pill is that way. It's just like all that kind of stuff.
But it was coming out of that Britney Christina era where it was just like, we can curate pretty little baby dolls that everybody loves. Yeah. And both of those are talented artists. I'm not saying that's absolutely all they are, but it is certainly the way that they approach creating more of that.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I ran screaming from all that because there is so much more musicianship in being a background singer. And that's like, I'm just a dork. Like, there's nothing more to me than that. Like, one of my favorite experiences is when I have a new student come in at some point. A lot of them I don't know in advance. I got started teaching. I act like I teach so much. I have like 5 students tops, and I teach like 1 day a week tops. But I love it, and it's such an important part of like me. I'll like have a student come in who's only seen me on Instagram, which by the way is a full advertisement. My life is not an Instagram. It's nobody's business. I've worked for artists who have a lot of very invasive fans, and I like protect myself.
I agree. Shout out to my poor wife who dealt with my lack of her in my social media.
Yeah, but
for a long time.
But for her privacy too.
Yeah, and it was very much about being like, even when we got engaged, I got a message from a super fan of an artist that I hadn't played for in like 4 or 5 years at that point. And it was like, is that artist going to be at the wedding? And it was like, nope,
not your business.
So just that whole thing is just like, super fan and crazy folk is.
I love that fans care about what we do. And I love they care about the artists. Like, music is nothing without fans. It doesn't exist. We don't go play shows without fans. It doesn't exist.
Yep.
But don't do things that are violating, and don't show up in people's personal lives. If it's about the artist, if you want to get close to them because of the artist, don't do it.
Yeah, no.
It's our job. I'm not going to walk up to you at the Verizon store and be like, wow, Verizon's my favorite too. I'd like to come to your house. Okay. And also Verizon isn't your favorite because you work there. And neither are some of these artists. Okay. Like, just saying.
For sure.
Just saying.
I've only ever gotten one TMZ call in my life.
Oh my God. You got a TMZ call?
Yeah.
I've never gotten that.
Just one. And it was like, it was the most surreal shit.
I would have been so scared.
I was like,
I would have just hung up.
I mean, I pretty much did.
Yeah, like emotionally, I'm hanging up right now. Like, no.
Yeah, I said what I was told to say.
There you
and
go.
That was it.
At least you had a prompt already. At least you knew. Yeah. Where were we headed before that?
You were talking about education. You were talking about students that have only seen you on Instagram.
Oh, thank you so much.
And that's a full advertisement in not your life. Wow, I did it. That is a moment for me.
You better drink that champagne, and it's not champagne. It's whatever they call it whenever it's not.
Thank you. Sparkling wine.
Thank you. Just when you say sparkling wine, it sounds like a what's that brand called? Sparkling grape juice, Martinelli's. But I see it when people have never met me and they come in because my Instagram is very intentionally an advertisement.
Yeah.
They come in, they're like, I don't want to, they'll say it like, I don't want to sing in front of you. Like, I'm so nervous. I'm like, dude, like, I'm not even your aunt. I'm your like weirdest aunt that you kind of avoid getting stuck with at the function. Like,
you're not even an aunt. You're a third cousin.
Exactly. There is nothing intimidating about me in the true sense, I hope. But it always cracks me up when people start acting that way. I'm like, oh, you believe Instagram. Okay, like, let's just start with it. That's not real. Yeah. And let's move into this is all about you and your voice. And you're going to hate that immediately. But
do you think maybe people don't like it because, I don't know, this is not rooted in reality whatsoever. But like, I'm just trying to like do the thing I do and like think about what you said and diagnose it.
Come on, doc.
And knowing that like my response what I'm about to say is not rooted in the reality of any situation that you're describing, is that they know that you know better. Your awareness of being like, I'm so scared to sing in front of you is like, you could say whatever you want, but they know that you know.
I think really too, if people have, and this is where fandom, like this, we're rounding the corner of that thought, they only see the tiny bit that you want to give them.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 0.2% of my life is on Instagram.
Yeah.
0.2.
Mm-hmm.
Even you could know that I sang on that record. But if you were in the room when I sang on that record, somebody do my crazy chop hands in the sky because I have to like keep the energy moving through my body and like watch the producer make fun of me and the artist be like, who the fuck? Like if you were in the room, it would not look as cool to you, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or whatever it is. You know, I think these things are just like, it's so easy to come up with a whole idea of a person or what they are or what they think. And I think that is one of the most unhealthy things we do. I really am just a little dork and I really just want to like sing with you. And like, but I'm not going to make that me on the internet either, because if people feel like they can just be really friendly with me, that has consequences for my personal life that I'm not willing to deal with. You know, I'll never forget the day that there's a particular artist I worked for whose fans are particularly intense, and I won't say whom, but y'all know it's you. Anyway, there is a brewery walking distance from my house, and it's kind of my like little safe place, and I love to hang out there. It's really fun. I was stopping in just buying some beers for home, and somebody was at the bar and they gave me that look, and I was like, what? And they're like, I'm so sorry, but do you sing for so-and-so? And like my heart fell, because I was just like, I was in my real life. Yeah. And like, I'm okay with being near the venue and a fan notices and we all talk and like, I'm excited for the show too. Like I'm all for it at that moment. Like, yeah, but I'm like, I avoided this career for these interactions I don't want to have. Yeah. And again, like, it's not that anybody's being rude by saying hi. Of course they're not. They're saying, I love what you do. And it's always kindness. It's just that it's jarring whenever you're just like, oh, I like walked here. It's 1,000,000 degrees. And I'm not trying to be on stage right now, even though that's what you see me as. Yeah. Always. In fact, stage is like the part of my life I would have happily delete of all the things. They do. Yeah.
I have a weird relationship, and it goes back to the spectrum-y thing. Like it's one of the things that has made me wonder about this. You know what I hate? I hate playing a small gig, like a bar gig. Oh. When there are very few people in the room and someone is like right up against the stage. It makes me feel so weird when like the room is empty, but there's like two people that are like right there. And I'm like, oh man. I recently have been talking about playing like bar gigs and like that have been very crowded, and someone gets on stage and it is so terrible for me because I'm like, well, no, this is our sacred space. Yeah. You know? And like I know, like I'm so glad you're here, but like from this line to this line and these lines, like this is like my little world. And hadn't thought about that in a minute, but about the part where it's like there's 20 people in this room that can hold 500 and two of you have decided to be against the front of the stage. And I'm like, you're too close. Yeah. And if there were 500 people there, I wouldn't care. Because
then it becomes ants.
Yeah, it's no choice on their part.
Sure, like you have to be.
Yeah, you have to be against other people. And
can we address though that's a little bit Nashville too?
Yeah, sure.
Like Nashville, we have like a show energy that's a little different here, and like I know you've been on enough tours.
I've known artists who will not come.
Yeah, and I understand why not,
because they get the arms crossed.
Yes,
energy.
Yes, and like even like. I had been on gigs that I thought would be immune to that, and still the Nashville show can be the lowest energy of the tour. Not always, but often, because it's just like, we could all do it. Yeah. We're all sitting there going, I could do it. Yep. Enough people in the room are saying it that it doesn't get excited like it does other places, which is okay. We just have our own thing.
And also, if you show that you're into it, there are people that you know that are also at this show.
Yeah, who might be
like, oh, yeah, you were rocking out at so-and-so show. And like, what a fucking dork.
That's actually one of my rules, though. If I absolutely love it, if I love this music, if I'm excited to go to this show, you will see me acting however I please. Yeah. I actually very much embarrassed myself recently. I got to see one of my favorite singers live for the first time. Letty C. She's a gospel singer. Yeah, you know her. Yeah. She's absolutely bananas. I got to see her at the Ryman recently. And I was embarrassing myself very good. Luckily, my friend that I brought was right there with me.
Sure. Yeah.
But I just like, I can't help it. Like if you're doing something that I think is like truly amazing, especially as a singer, like with your body, like, and the good and the bad ways, I can feel what you're doing with your body. And like when she does her like pristine technical stuff, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's victory for us all. Like it's like the excitement, you know, in the non-regulating sense. I'm out there just like literally, I'll just scream because I love it. Like I can't help it. In the same way that my entire body will be one brick of tenseness if you are singing strained. And it is also not in my control.
Yeah, I have an inability to not like circularly like pump my fist
if you're stoked,
if something like is like killing.
No, I get it. Talk to me after tomorrow when I drive to Atlanta to go see Missy Elliott for the first time in my life.
Yeah,
this lineup: Missy, Busta Rhymes, Sierra, Timbaland. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw a video on the OK Player Instagram maybe like a week ago or so.
They're fabulous. Oh, I've heard
of Busta on like with Missy. And man, Busta kills it every time.
He's nuts. He's one of my favorite rappers.
When he throws down still, I mean, and Busta's not young. When he throws down, it's for real.
I don't mean to nerd about hip hop, which doesn't deserve it.
I mean.
But the fluidity of this man's consonants. But that's what I love about it. Okay, here, let's go flashback. We can flashback. I was in a band when I first graduated college in Nashville, Humming House. Americana in the Stomp Clap era. Yeah. We were so great. They're still around. They still put out occasional singles. They're great.
How many bands do you have that you get to, that's the second time you've been like, yeah, this band's still around. I'm not there, but.
No, but you know what? Partially that is just truly like, if I am no longer excited to be there, I go.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if I'm excited to be here, I'm your best asset.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, I'm a puppy. I'm tearing up the couch. You don't want it. I don't want it either.
I have such a problem with that. Like I'm the first person to tell people like, hey, don't stay longer than you're happy because like you don't think anybody knows.
No,
but everybody knows.
Negativity spreads so fast.
Yeah, and I am so bad at that. I always am like one step beyond. And it's just because I'm like, man, not yet. Like I can turn this around.
Yeah,
and then hindsight is just like
I'm sure we should both go give a hug to someone we know that has stayed around too long recently even.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an easy thing to do too though, because you make real personal relationships and you care and you genuinely start caring about and loving about the music and the new music and what's happening, what's coming out, what's going on in the business. And it's very not invasive, but immersive for all of us. And it's a good thing to care about it.
Yeah. It should be immersive.
People
that don't get immersed.
Well, sometimes it shouldn't be. Sometimes I think that like we deserve to think of it as a job and let it be a job. Because when it gets too immersive, it takes over our identity and that's not fair to us. Because like this artist is not my identity and their choices aren't my identity.
I can see that. I mean, and maybe that's like a weird Achilles heel. Like I want to be invested. Like I want to be.
I want to too, but like you're going to abuse me at any time that you feel like it. So I can't always be fully invested. And abuse is a big word. I've been experienced abuse on gigs as far as I feel like emotionally. But also like these gigs where you go out and you stay out longer are a very different conversation than Nashville gigs who would do the weekends.
Yeah, right.
Weekend gigs, whatever. I'm down. I'm just down. It's probably easy.
Yeah.
If you want me to come and stay on your bus for a few months at a time and only have a few days at home a year, we have to have a different view of that. And I'm going to probably need you to be my boss because we're going to live together and there's going to be some stuff you do that is going to make me go like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough if I don't have the boundary to go, this is my job. This is not real. This is not my real life. My real life is somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure.
So it can go both ways. But then there's also those gigs I've been really invested in. And like, I mean, you already heard me talk about it. Everybody knows I'm invested. Sweet baby Jake Wesley Rogers.
Yeah.
Like, I want to jump on his wagon, light it on fire, and take it on a crusade.
Yeah.
I'm in. As a person, as everything. But that's not going to be the case every time. Sometimes these people have to be your bosses because sometimes they're not people that you like.
Yeah,
or
of course.
that you agree with or that you trust or respect. And sometimes you go, let me put on this silly little outfit and do this stupid thing for you and leave with my paycheck. And it has, I think the release is that it can be what you need it to be in those times and having those boundaries like with yourself internally. I'm careful with that. I'll never forget this too. Back when I was young and touring, I was talking to somebody who's had a lot more experience than me. And I was like, oh yeah, like everything's so great. We're all friends, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, listen, they're not your friends. Like they are,
Yeah.
but they're your bosses. And at the end of the day, they're going to do things you're not going to like. And I think it was like the next week, something pretty rough happened. And I was like, okay, they're not just my friends. Like we're friendly.
Yeah.
We're friendly and that's good.
There's also another dimension of that. And this has happened to me a few times where you start out with someone, like you were friends before you were bandmates.
Oh.
Like because they didn't have cachet for that. And then so you go and do the thing because you're like, yeah,
and
of course I'm going to go do the thing with you.
And you probably do it as a sacrifice at first for little or no money.
Or something like that. And it's just like, well,
you're investing
play music
in
with
the
my
experience.
friend, you know?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they flip.
They got budget.
Yeah. Like, or just personally, like all of a sudden, like just a jokey, you know, like friendly thing that was cool in your living room a year and a half ago is no longer cool.
Well, because your friend sometimes becomes an entity and they start thinking about themselves differently and their ego starts driving a whole different thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Not always, but I've seen it too. And it's tough.
And I try and have so much empathy. I mean, I said this to Mike, like I try and have so much empathy for artists because as a bass player, like my fucking name isn't on the marquee, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I'm out here complaining about running into one fan, one place.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of that thing where it's like, well, you know, like I get it. Like your pressure is a different kind of pressure and all this stuff. And so I try and have a lot of empathy. I don't think I've ever really been like fucked that way, you know, where it's like,
that's good.
Where it's, you know, like where it's just like bad in terms of like being betrayed of that empathy.
Yes.
But like,
I have.
But there, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's so important though to acknowledge both experiences fairly.
Yeah.
Like when you've had your reality fully taken by a narcissistic artist, I'll say it takes a while to recover. Yeah. And it especially again, when you go live there. Mm-hmm. That's why I have a whole freaking mission nowadays. Yeah. Just like treat people with respect, like even if they're just late.
Yeah.
Like don't question their goodness of soul over being late or over raising their hand when things aren't okay.
Yeah.
Have a conversation. Ask a question before you make an assumption. Mm-hmm. That said, I've also worked for so many great artists who like treat me like massively like a person.
Yeah, for
awesome.
Sure.
But you know, like there's some of these experiences too, like it is worth acknowledging as much as we do that I live my dreams, that like my dreams are not what I thought they were and not what they look like.
Yeah.
At the same time that I get paid almost exclusively to sing in this world, you know? So it's it is exactly both. When I really, you know, the way I describe it to my friends is like, when you're starting a tour, it's like, day one, here's rehearsals. Here's all your coworkers. You're going to be living on a bus with them for up to 2 months in a week. Mm-hmm. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. Like, when you describe it that way, nobody wants to do it.
Yeah.
But as they see it on Instagram, they're like, wow, you went to Turkey. And I'm like, I sat in my hotel room all day crying in Turkey because the social stress out there is so intense. Like, you don't even know. Like, you don't even know. Like, I didn't get to see Turkey. I don't even know why I said Turkey. I've never been there. But you know exactly that. Like I could have been there and not remember a single day of it. Like
for sure.
Every day I'm in Zurich is a bad day. I've been to Zurich 4 times. I've never seen any of Zurich. Yeah. It's cursed. For whatever reason, that's always the day I'm having a terrible day. Even the last time I went there last year, I was like, I'm going to have a good day in Zurich. And then it rained all day and I was already in a bad mood. And I was just like, why? Why Switzerland, me and you?
Can't you at least have a neutral day?
Switzerland would ask me to, but it's like if we want to go for that metaphor,
nerdiest joke I could have possibly made.
And I'm right here catching it.
Swiss diplomacy.
Hey, and you know what? It makes sense that me, one of the most aggressively opinionated people on earth, can't have a good day in Switzerland.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not passive.
Yeah, that tracks.
Passiveness is offensive to me, honestly. I'll say that to your passive faces. And then we'll talk about it and you'll hate every minute. Passive babies. Love you.
Incredible.
It's true.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for doing it. What a great time.
Thank you for having me. This was a great giggle.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Thanks for letting me make you drink.
Yes.
I'm a bad friend.
Yeah, well. Bye.
Thanks, America.
And boom goes the dynamite. There was my talk with Kristen. What a lovely chat. Don't you agree? My thanks to her for being on the podcast. My thanks to you for listening to the show. As I said back in the intro, I'm trying to take over the world here. So all those likes, follows, reviews, ratings, shares, everywhere you want to do it. If you liked it on Spotify, go like it on Apple Podcasts. Go like it on YouTube. Hit those stars, 5-star reviews. We love them. Also, please follow the show on Instagram. That is at Matt O'Donnell Wants to Know. If you're looking for just me, that's at Matt O'Donnell. Questions, comments, concerns, no weird messages for Kristen. Matt O'Donnell Wants to Know at gmail.com. Drop me a line. I have stickers. If you're interested in stickers, hit that email address and we will work something out. I said last time that there is a MattO'DonnellWantsToKnow.com that is happening sometime soon. It is still happening sometime soon. Now is not the time that is soon. That's all I've got for you today. Take care of yourself. And remember, the best answer to a question is usually another question. See ya!